Hey everyone, it's Rebecca Ruth. Thanks again for tuning in for another chat with a creative. Today I have Constance Victory with me. How are you, Constance?
Hello, Rebecca Ruth. I am doing very well, thank you, and delighted to be here with you today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. I always look forward to talking to new creatives. So it always excites me as well. So I like to jump right in. So tell us all where you are and what you do in the industry.
So I am in New York City, and I am a designer. I'm founder and designer of Victoire Focx accessories, which mostly comprises of handbags, all sustainable, everything handmade. Within Victoire Focx, there's Victoire Focx, the premium line, which everything is produced in New York City, everything, except the leathers, which are largely produced in Italy, the skins. And I have the diffusion line also, which is the VF for Victoire Focx, and that is made by hand between Kolkata, India, and New York City inside of my home. So I do a lot of handmade work with those bags once they arrive to me. And yes, and that line is quite popular. It's in Free People, Scout and Molly, Grass Stains, and many more specialty boutiques along the East Coast and in New York City.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, first, Victoire. So that's for those of you who don't know, that's victory in French. So that's pretty cool. I like that. But then also I didn't know, I personally, which is fine. This is why I love the interviews, because I don't ask you a lot of questions beforehand. But I didn't realize that you're working with India and then, also working in Italy. Let's rewind a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to this point.
So I got to this point, I studied at Rhode Island School of Design. I did pattern making and apparel design. When I graduated, I instantly started working for Patti Wilson, she's the editorial director for Italian Vogue. So I was working with her on a lot of shoots. And my main focus at that time was textile design, which branched into accessories design because my inspiration of architecture and translating architecture into something wearable, well, why not focus with bags, let's say, because in a way that is a portable kind of architecture. It's a space that a part of you slips and slides in and out of, and you put things into it. And when you think of construction, you have to think of how these objects exist within this space. And it's one size fits all. You know what I mean? So I felt like it's equal opportunity with beauty products for everyone. And I love that aspect of it. So I focused on handbags as opposed to pattern making and clothing. And I didn't enjoy pattern making for clothes too much, though I do all of my patterns for my handbags and accessories, I will say. But yes, so that's how I really ventured off into accessories design. I spent a lot of time in Italy. I was inspired by Renaissance architecture that I saw in Italy. And that's for my premium line. I was actually inspired by that, the Gothic cathedrals and the rose windows. And then how I got to the second line, the diffusion line, is because I was invited to India by the Council of Leather Exports several years ago. And that is, it's an organization devoted to connecting designers with manufacturers in India. And so there's a leather fair that happened where I and other designers, maybe about 30 of us, were introduced to top manufacturers in India. And we created productive relationships with these manufacturers. And that's how the diffusion line came about, because they could not work with the alligators, the crocodile skin, that's the python skin that I was used to working with for the bespoke line, the premium line. They could only work with natural leathers. So I said, okay, I'll reintroduce the line, make it a bit more simple, less complex as far as design details, focus on great skins, interesting hardware, and production. And that's how this came about, the second line.
Awesome. So let me go back for a minute because I've been to Rhode Island. I used to live in New England. I lived in Boston for 5.5 years and things like that. So I wouldn't have pictured Rhode Island as a place to have a fashion.
I know.
A fashion
I understand. I understand, but you know what? It does have an interesting scene. It has
It
something
does.
it's like something that's on the horizon. It's
Yeah.
something that's on the cusp. You know what I mean? Because it's not a New York City. It's not, let's
Right.
say, a South Beach. It's not maybe even Chicago. Chicago has an interesting, fashion scene for the boutiques and what have you. But because you have the design talent there that will soon be the tastemakers, you know what I mean? When they get into the field, they will soon have that voice. They will soon have that authority. So you're really working with like this interesting breeding ground,
Yeah.
which makes it an even more interesting place to be, to observe.
I mean, this is true. I mean, I started my business in Lynchburg, Virginia. So I understand, like starting out in these obscure places where it's like,
Yeah.
why would you do fashion in Lynchburg? I was like, because nobody else was,
Exactly.
I was like, I mean, now they have, they're all right, they're picking it up. But when I started it, there was a very small group of us doing fashion in Lynchburg. So I totally get that. It's just funny because I spent so much time in New England. I was like, Rhode Island? Really? But I was like, okay.
Providence,
Cool.
Rhode Island.
All right.
Providence, I know, Providence, Rhode Island. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Right.
It's a
Who would have
lovely place.
thought?
It has that small town feel. And
Right.
you know what? I feel like a lot of great talent it doesn't come from out of the big city. It
Yeah.
comes from out of small towns and villages and like really rural, like countryside living almost in a way.
Yeah.
It.
It's funny that you bring that up because I talk about this all the time, specifically to Africa because I'm African. And so I'm like, it's not a secret that a lot of what we see has African, heritage, African ties, African. And like when you go over there, and you would know this, having been to India and stuff, like the work is so like meticulous and so detailed. And so and I don't, I'm not trying to say this in a demeaning way because like that's all they have. And so, and also they realize this could be their ticket, to something else. And so they dedicate themselves to becoming like the masters of their crafts. And they're so good. And it is like hand by hand. They do all this work by hand. And it's just, you can't even, you can't describe it. So you see it in person. And so I find that too, that a lot of people come out of, these rural, sometimes honestly impoverished, because I think they're hungrier for it almost. And, I feel like they want it more. That's me personally.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You can actually argue that it's in these environments that sustainable fashion, recycling the clothing, reusing garments. You can actually say that this is where it's had its birthplace because people are often using hand-me-downs and often there are marketplaces where clothing, recycled clothing from other countries are actually placed there for the people to have access to and to reuse. And a lot of the time people repurpose these clothings. Maybe they take apart some of the shirts that are in a pile. You get a couple of them and you can reconfigure it to have a new garment, a whole new garment. There's a designer, he's one of my favorites, Zuli Bet. Zuli Bet, he's based in Paris, but he is from Mali. Okay. And he talks about the recycling of clothing, of different garments that happens in Mali because they're there are these marketplaces where, hey mom, there are these marketplaces where people purchase clothing.
Yes. When you go to Africa, they're just like these open markets. And it's just clothes everywhere. And a lot of it, is clothes either from, like you said, other countries have been flown in, they're selling it. A lot of it's clothes that, sometimes it's clothes that they've made themselves. Honestly, I think sometimes it's consignment, I guess we could say. But it's actually quite amazing. So it's a really fun experience, just like weaving through all these stalls, and it's just close, 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 close. So like, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think it's great when I hear creatives, people will hear me say this all the time, like reaching across the pond to me is such a big thing. And I just feel like people who aren't doing it are just really hurting their careers and hurting their businesses by not connecting with, people across the water. So
Right.
I love to hear that. I really do. And India, we are represented in India. Now that I think about it, but India is one of those countries that it's on my list. We'll get there. Worthy will definitely get there because we're already there. But and I have lately really gotten into the fashion coming out of India. And I was like, we're sleeping on fashion coming out of India. We really are. Because again, it's the meticulous like beadwork and like, all of that out of India that I'm just like, that's beautiful.
It's true.
It's literally gorgeous. So yeah, that always, and of course, Italy's Italy. So
and you know what? And there's great leather workmanship. There's just as meticulous, well done leather workmanship in India as there is in parts of Italy.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure. Yeah. That's exciting. Makes me want to go travel now. So did you always want to be in fashion, or did you have another path before fashion?
I always wanted to do fashion.
Yeah.
Since I was very little, I always wanted to do fashion and knew that's my path.
So how did it start? How did the path start? But like before you went to school in Rhode Island, but had you done anything in fashion before going to school?
Before that, you know what? Not professionally. Okay. I'd have to say not professionally. My first professional gig, if you will, in fashion was actually, no, I can't say that. I think I was 16. I was 15 or 16 maybe, and I interned at Talbot's. It was a company that was a wholesaler for Talbot's.
Okay.
So that was my first, but then as far as the glamour goes, the first real work was I interned at Valentino for the PR with the PR manager for Valentino. So
that's very cool. So I think I want to talk about that a little bit, like internships, because this is a topic that has come up a lot actually recently. A lot of conversations that have been brought my way about internships and people feeling like maybe internships are not worth it. I highly disagree, but that conversation, and also that it's just really hard. So most people, honestly, like getting an internship with Valentino, that's not easy to do, first of all. But then secondly, I think it's important to talk about, did you feel like it was valuable? Like, is it worth it, quote unquote? Do you feel like, because this is a topic that's come up a lot recently.
I feel like internships are worth it. I feel like you can gain just as much from 5 days as you can, let's say, because the whole paid issue is a thing. Most internships in this field are not paid.
Right.
So if you have to make money, if you don't have mommy and daddy giving you money into the bank account while you do that unpaid work, then 3 days at the internship back to back, and then several other days somewhere else where you can get paid and gain experience that will assist you in fashion, that will assist you, whether it's in fashion or even on a interpersonal communication level.
Right.
That's all part of business too. Right. I would suggest someone do that. For me, when I interned, I did 3 days 3 days in the office, and then I would do like 2 to 3 days hostessing at a
Right.
restaurant or being someone's personal assistant, several days out of the week. And that all helped because the skills that you get in communication, working in the restaurant industry, the fast pace of it, food and beverage. And if you get into the right glamorous place, you're meeting people also,
Yeah.
you use those same skills in PR, let's say, when you're largely interacting with people promoting a client. So that's a very specific example, but I would say interning it can be a great experience. It can be a useful experience. I don't think you need to give 5 days of your week to being unpaid. You can do it part-time. I would suggest someone doing it part-time. Otherwise, if you really do have to earn money, earn an income, you might feel taken advantage of. You may grow resentful. You may not get the payoff that you'd hope. So to cover yourself in those cases, do it part-time.
Yeah. I mean, I think everything that you said is, kind of on point. It really depends on the situation as far as the paid. I know that that's a whole other conversation that's going on in the business world right now, paid internships and what's reasonable and all of that good stuff. But, having said that, I think for me, it's, you do learn so much. You do. Whether it's, I hate this industry and I'm out, or I love it, or it's, depending on who you're working for. Maybe you're working for an editor, maybe you're working for a designer, like it, to say that you're not going to get something out of an internship, I think number one is a very broad statement. But I also think it's a little, I just think it's incorrect, because I feel like you can always gain something from, experience. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but when I first started my business and stuff, I had a mentor, but I was pretty much his assistant at first. I had to prove myself to him that, I was worth his time.
Right.
So like, I didn't get paid for any of that. I didn't really start making money in my business for several years. So it's like, but I learned so much during that time. So there is some value to, kind of going through the steps and things like that. But yes, at the end of the day, like, we all need to eat. So if you really like, if you depend on a paycheck, if you have to have that money, then, you've got to do what you've got to do. But
right.
Yeah, I just feel like to just make the statement that it's not worth it. I'm like, I feel like it's a little dangerous to say.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's misinformed. It's not well informed.
Right. And then as far as you with your internship, I mean, Valentino is a pretty, obviously legit fashion house. So how did you even get that internship?
So I got the internship because I was taking the Amtrak service, the Amtrak train service home from Rhode Island. And I overheard a man sitting next to me saying, "Oh yes, and the models looked great. And this was this and that was that. Oh, and she looked so beautiful. Da, 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 da." And instantly, like, the light bulb, went out, flashed in my head. And I said, "Oh my gosh, he works in fashion. I need to see if I can work with him in fashion, because summer will be here in 6 months." Right. And the train was on the way to New York. I knew he was on his way to New York. So he worked in New York, not Rhode Island, talking about his talk. Okay. So yeah, so I struck up conversation with him on the train. We were seated in different places because this was in the waiting room that I overheard him. So I introduced myself to him there. I sat where I sat. I had some Pizza Hut too. So I wanted to snack on my Pizza Hut before I went to talk to him. And after I finished my Pizza Hut, I went over to him and reintroduced myself and said, "Would I be able to work with you in the summer?" I was very direct, very forward, very much not shy about it.
Right.
And he said yes.
Wow.
He said yes. And that was a 2-summer internship that I had with him. And I gained gorgeous vintage handbags from out of it, because that's how they paid me. That's how they paid me in accessories. So
I mean, I would take that, yeah.
I took it, I work 3 days a week, hostess to other days, you know what I mean? So I got to make some money, got to make a little bit of money, but yes, that's what happened. I got paid in a gorgeous vintage handbag the first summer, and then beautiful accessories, some of them off of the red carpet, straight off of J-Lo's body. You
Wow.
know, the second summer that I did it.
First of all, I love that you remember what you were eating. Cause I'm like, that's totally something I would do. I was like, you gotta remember what you were eating. That's like super important.
Right? It was good. I love Pizza Hut.
I love pizza, period. So yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm kind of a Papa John's girl myself, but yes, I love pizza, period. But yeah, so first, I love that you remember what you're eating. But yes, that's super bold and like brave and all the things. But I feel like, because listen, people who are watching, like, I know someone's gonna watch this and be like, next time I see this, I'm just gonna, okay, like, there's a way to do this.
There's a way to do it, right?
There's a way to do this. So please don't charge the next person you see or over here. But no, like, there's definitely a way to do it. And if you do it the right way, I mean, don't get me wrong, he could have said no, but the fact is, so yeah, we're not guaranteeing a yes either, but that skill set of being able to, you know, walk up to someone, introduce yourself, and professionally and eloquently, you know, like,
right. And that's a skill. That's a skill.
It's definitely a skill. So that's awesome. That's really cool. But, you know, like, honestly, the people that I know who've been in this industry for a while, they all have stories like that, including myself. Like, we all have stories of just kind of, you know, being bold and being like, all right, I'm just gonna put myself out there. Because at the end of the day, like, those kinds of people, like the guy on the train and everything like that, like, let's just be real, they don't know we're here.
You know what? And that's the truth. That is the honest truth. They don't know we're here, and we may never see them ever again in our lives.
Exactly.
Unless we make the contact with them.
Right. Like, they don't know we're here.
They don't know we exist. They don't even know we're here.
Yeah. And it's not a snobby thing. It's just, they don't know.
They don't know we exist.
Right. They don't know we exist. So even if you're all over Instagram and things like that, that person, whoever that person is to get you in that door, he or she may not be on Instagram. They probably have an assistant, you know, handling their Instagram handle. So you just never ever know. So it's like, I feel like sometimes people get in their feelings with that. Well, you know, I'm out here, and I'm like, but these people are busy. They're doing their life. You know?
Right. They're doing life.
They're doing life. So don't take it so personally. But when you get opportunities like that, oh yeah, take them. Like, be tactful.
Be tactful, right? Be tactful, right? Yeah,
for sure. I'm gonna get messages, Rebecca. I'm thinking like, oh Lord, that's not what we told you to do. That is not what we told you.
That's true. Yeah, like, don't run up to someone right while they're mid-bite. You know, I mean, there's a way to do it. Yes, Rebecca. I feel like we can do a whole
other like segment on how, you know,
we really should.
And how to, you know, how to introduce yourself, and, you know, like I call it fangirl moments. When you have fangirl moments, I just had one actually when I was in New York back in August, because I was at an event and Omar Dorsey from Queen Sugar was there.
And yeah, from Lupin, right?
Yeah. No, is he not? He's definitely Queen Sugar. He's Hollywood.
Oh, no, wrong person. I'm thinking of the wrong person. Okay,
yeah, he's Hollywood and Queen Sugar. And then like Tone Bell was there. And so like, I love Queen Sugar, right? And I love Hollywood. Mm-hmm. So like, and then like, so I met him, and then I've met, you know, other people and things like that. And so like, you know, even things like that, like, he's not even in the fashion industry, you know, so it wasn't as much of a fangirl with him, although I love him. But when I've met people in the industry, it's like, you know, there's a tactful way to even do that. Because in my head, I'm like, oh my God, okay, all right. But outward, I'm like, hello, it's nice to meet you.
I hear you, girl. I hear you. I feel you.
And then when you do that, when you're like just normal, quote unquote,
Normal.
crazy, they're more open to talking to you.
Yeah, because you can't be acting crazy when you run up to these people. Especially like now in these times that we in,
Yeah.
you can't be crazy running up to people.
Yeah,
I would advise, don't touch.
Yeah.
Look with your eyes, not with your hands.
Yeah,
you know
the only reason why I shook is because they put out their hands. So I was like, okay, but like I didn't, reach.
Right. Oh no, I'm talking about people who run up and they're like, oh my gosh.
And like hug, yeah,
like,
no, we don't do all that.
We don't do that.
No.
Yeah.
We should do a segment because there's a whole time. But I will say, I will still keep it in check. But there are certain people that I really feel like I'm gonna have to practice meeting.
Right. I hear you. I'm relating with you.
Yeah.
I'm relating with you.
There's certain people I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to practice this. You
right, Rihanna?
I'll be me.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I hear you. We got to practice it. But you know what? I love that you said that because that's part of visualization.
Mm-hmm.
By practicing, you're visualizing and you will manifest actually meeting those people. So this is excellent for people watching to actually hear you say that. And this helps me hearing you say that because now I'm going to go and I'm going to visualize. I'm going to practice meeting. Oh, girl, I'm about to practice meeting someone, meeting people.
Yes.
Meeting people after this call.
That's amazing. And like when I'm doing it and I'm like, when I'm being silly, I'm all like, oh my, and I'm just like, okay, stop, you're doing too much. But so yeah, like, no, but it's good. There's honestly all this to say, like, we all have our people, right? Like the ones we look up to, the ones we love, the ones that if we met them, that would literally be like, oh my, like that's it, but in this industry, you kind of do have to go after it sometimes. Because again, people, there's a lot of us in this world who do this industry, first of all. So, you kind of have to grab it and like, just go for it. And, there is a way to do it tactfully. There is a way to do it respectfully, professionally, and everything like that. And the thing is, if the answer is still no, that's okay. Get the card, give the card, whatever it is, because you never know.
And sometimes you might not get a card from them.
Oh, that too.
And that's okay.
Yeah, so find them on Instagram.
Do a Google search.
Right. Google, Instagram.
Mail letters.
Don't stalk now.
Right. That's true. We can't be stalking. That's true.
Don't stalk, just, But no, I think this is great. But yeah, I think the takeaway is, like you said, I love how you said it. Well, how did you say it? Manifest or
practice meeting these people, these influential people who you desire to meet, because that's part of visualization, which leads to manifestation. Girl, you
write that down. Look, I said I was going to start having a quote book or something so that when different creatives say things, I could like write it down. And every time I forget, but I was like, hey, I need that written down. I mean, I can watch this back and get it. Oh yeah, we'll do that. But I want to thank you so much, Constance, for coming and for chatting and sharing a little bit about you and your brand and for showing us some handbags.
Some goodies. Look at Monica. Yeah. Monica is a star. She's the star of the collection. She keeps on selling.
What color is that?
Charcoal.
Okay.
Charcoal, but I also have her in olive.
Ooh, I like that.
Thank you. I just had to get her in. I know we're low on time, but I just want to, I got to do a plug.
Right.
Mama's got to do a plug.
Plugs all the time. So go right on ahead.
The Liz bag, perfect crossbody, mini box bag.
Yeah, I think I saw that one on Instagram, one of your photo shoots.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to make sure that everyone knows how to connect with you on Instagram and see all the great bags and everything like that. But like I said, thank you. It's been a pleasure, and we may need to come back for part 2.
Could we please, I'm going to talk to you about, thank you for having me. This was an
You're
absolute
welcome.
delight, and you inspired me too today in several ways. Let's do an IG live where we focus on like how not to approach people, how to approach people. I think a lot of people would learn from it.
I think so too. So we can talk about that and make it happen.
I'm excited. I'm excited, Rebecca. I'm excited.
All right, lady. Well, I will talk to you soon, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And this is wonderful what you're doing. It's so inspiring.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.